reset your cells. Your body has internal deep cleaning mode. Ready to unlock your health? Let's get started.
You've probably seen it all over social media. You've definitely heard celebrities and health gurus talking about it. But what is the real story behind intermittent fasting? Is it just the latest health fad, or is there some serious, hard science backing it up? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So, what's the deal here? Is fasting just an ancient ritual that's gotten a trendy modern makeover? Or is it a legitimate health hack, a real scientific breakthrough? The answer, as you'll see, is actually a little bit of both.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll get down to the basics of what intermittent fasting even is. Then we'll take a quick trip back in time to look at its history before diving deep into the really cool stuff. What happens inside your body when you fast? After that, we'll explore the potential benefits, and finally, we'll wrap up with a realistic look at where the science is headed.
Okay, let's get right into it. Section 1. What in the world is intermittent fasting when you strip away all the hype?
The first thing to get is that intermittent fasting isn't a diet in the way we usually think of one. It's really just an umbrella term that covers a bunch of different eating schedules. And the key idea, the absolute core of it, is that it's not about what you eat, it's about when you eat. It's all about cycling between windows of eating and windows of, well, not eating.
So, how do people actually do this? Well, there are a few really common approaches. The 16-8 plan is probably the most popular. You fast for 16 hours and squeeze all your meals into an 8-hour window. Then you've got the 5-2 diet, where you eat normally 5 days a week and fast on the other 2. And for the more adventurous, there's even alternate day fasting. They're all just different ways to get to that same cycle.
Now, you might be thinking this is all some new 21st century trend, but actually, fasting has an incredibly long and fascinating history. It's a practice that's been around forever, and modern science is really just starting to catch up and figure out why it works.
I mean, for thousands of years, fasting has been a central part of spiritual practices in pretty much every major world religion, seen as a way to cleanse the body and focus the mind. And it also makes a ton of sense from an evolutionary standpoint, right? It perfectly mimics the feast and famine cycles our ancestors had to live through. It even had a, let's say, interesting phase in the early 1900s as a supposed cure for diseases.
In the scientific journey to understand all this, it's been a long one. From the very first experiments on metabolism way back in the 1700s, through some pretty questionable ideas in the early 20th century, all the way to today, where scientists with incredible technology are finally unlocking the secrets of what fasting does to us at the molecular level.
Okay, so that's the history, but now for the really cool part. What is actually happening inside your body when you decide to skip a meal? Let's unlock some of those cellular secrets. The moment you start fasting, you're not just getting hungry. You're actually flipping a series of ancient, powerful metabolic switches. Switches that have evolved over millions of years to help our bodies survive and thrive during times when food was scarce. One of the very first things that kicks in is a process called ketogenesis. Now, I want you to think of your body like a super smart hybrid car. Most of the time, it runs on glucose. That's the sugar you get from carbs. But when that fuel tank runs low, your body doesn't just panic and shut down. No way. It intelligently switches over to its backup power source, your stored body fat. It starts turning that fat into these amazing little energy molecules called ketones, which your brain absolutely loves. So here's how that metabolic switch plays out, step by step. First, your body burns through all that easy access sugar. Once that's gone, it starts tapping into your fat stores. Your liver then gets to work converting that fat into ketones. And finally, your brain and your muscles start happily humming along on this super efficient new fuel source. It's a survival mechanism perfected over eons. But that's not all. There's another incredible process that ramps up, and it's called autophagy. Now, that literally means self-eating, which sounds a little strange, I know. But think of it as your body's internal housekeeping and recycling program. When you fast, your cells go into spring cleaning mode. They start clearing out all the old, junky, damaged parts, and then recycle them to build new, healthier components. It's absolutely crucial for cellular maintenance. And get this, the benefits don't stop there. Fasting also has a huge effect on your gut microbiome. You know, the trillions of bacteria living in your digestive system. Shifting the balance of that community can have ripple effects on everything from inflammation to your immune response and your overall metabolism. Okay, so we have this metabolic switch, this cellular cleanup. But what does all this amazing science actually mean for your health? Let's look at what the evidence says. What's the payoff? Let's start with the one everyone talks about, weight loss. The results in published studies are, well, they're kind of all over the place. We're talking a massive range, with body weight loss reported from as little as 1.3% to a jaw-dropping 84%. Now, while that range is huge, the one thing that's consistent is that IF does seem to be a pretty effective tool for mild to moderate weight loss.
But honestly, it goes so far beyond just a number on the scale. The research points to some serious wins for your heart and metabolic health. We're talking about things like improving how your body handles sugar, which can lower your risk for type 2 diabetes. It can also help lower blood pressure, bring down that bad LDL cholesterol, and even reduce chronic inflammation and cellular damage. Now, in the world of cancer research, the findings are very preliminary, but they are incredibly exciting. Studies in animals are suggesting that fasting could potentially slow down tumor growth and even make cancer cells more vulnerable to treatments like chemotherapy. It might even help power up our own body's immune system to fight back against cancer.
And what about the big one, aging, and our brains? Well, the science is starting to suggest that fasting might help protect our bodies from the inside out. It could reduce some of that age-related wear and tear on our organs and blood vessels. And it might even help protect our brain cells, potentially delaying the cognitive decline we see in diseases like Alzheimer's.
Now, it's super important to take a step back here. As exciting as all this sounds, the science of intermittent fasting is still relatively young. So let's be responsible and take a realistic look at what we know for sure and what questions we still need to answer.
So here's a quick snapshot of where we're at. On the what we know side, there's pretty solid evidence that it works for some weight loss and can improve metabolic health, at least in the short term. But on the what we need to learn side, there are still big questions about long-term safety, which protocols work best for which diseases, and how it affects all different kinds of people.
And finally, this is absolutely crucial to remember. Intermittent fasting is not a magic bullet, and it is definitely not for everyone. If someone has a history of eating disorders, it could be very risky. There's also the chance of regaining weight once you stop, and let's be honest, sticking to it long-term can be really tough. That's why it's so important to talk to a doctor before you start.
So when you boil it all down, it leaves us with this one massive, thought-provoking question. For so long, we have been obsessed with what we eat. But the science of intermittent fasting is forcing us to consider that when we eat might be just as crucial for our health. It's a truly fascinating new frontier, and it feels like we've only just begun to scratch the surface. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for watching. Your journey to metabolic health starts now. Subscribe for more science-backed tips on longevity. See you in the next one.